So today's section is primarily about the Mahapurusha, that is like Virat Rupa form of the Lord. Sutta Goswami is taking from gradual progression to reader to Krishna in this chapter again, based on a question. So we'll hear. Rukmini Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devin Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nastapraya Pareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So today we're continuing Canto 12, Page of Deterioration, Chapter 11, Summary, Description of the Mahapurusha, Text 1 to 25. Text 1. Sri Shanaka said, O Sutta, you are the best of the learned men and a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, we now inquire from you about the definitive conclusion of all Tantra scriptures. 2 to 3. All good fortune to you. Please explain to us, who are very eager to learn, the process of Kripa Yoga practiced through regulated worship of the Transcendental Lord, the husband of the Goddess of Fortune. Please also explain how the Lord's devotees conceive of his limbs, associates, weapons, and ornaments in terms of particular material representation. By expertly worshipping the Supreme Lord, a mortal can claim immortality. 4. Sutta Goswami said, offering obeisances to my spiritual masters, I shall repeat to you the description of the opulences of Lord Vishnu, given in the Vedas and Tantras by great authorities, beginning from lotus-born Brahma. 5. The universal form Virat of the personality of Godhead includes the 9 basic elements of creation, starting with the unmanifest nature and their subsequent transformations. Once this universal form is instilled with consciousness, the 3 planetary systems become visible within it. 6 to 8. This representation of the Supreme Lord as the universal person, in which the earth is his feet, the sky his navel, the sun his eyes, the wind his nostril, the demigod of procreation his genitals, death his anus, and the moon his mind. The heavenly planets are his head, the directions his ears, and the demigods protecting the various planets are his many arms. The god of death is his eyebrows, shame his lower lip, greed his upper lip, delusion his smile, and moonshine his teeth, while the trees are the Almighty Purusha's body hairs, and the clouds hair on his head. 9. Just as one can determine the dimensions of an ordinary person of this world by measuring his various limbs, one can determine the dimensions of the Mahapurusha by measuring the arrangement of the planetary systems within his universal form. 10. Upon his chest, the Almighty, the unborn personality of Godhead, bears the Kastuba gem, which represents the pure spirit soul, along with the Srivasta mark, which is the clear manifestation of this gem's expansive effulgence. 11 to 12. His flower garland is his material energy, comprising various combinations of the modes of nature. His yellow garment is the Vedic meters, and his sacred thread, the syllable Om, composed of the 3 sounds. In the form of his 2 shark-shaped earrings, the Lord carries the processes of Sankhya and Yoga. and his crown, bestowing fearlessness on the inhabitants of all the worlds, is the supreme position of Brahmaloka. 13. Ananta, the Lord's sitting place, is the unmanifest phase of material nature, and the Lord's lotus throne is the mode of goodness, endowed with the religion and knowledge. 14 to 15. The club the Lord carries is the chief element, prana, incorporating the potencies of sensory, mental, and physical strength. His excellent conch shell is the element water, his Sudarshan disc the element fire, and his sword, pure sky, the element ether. His shields embodies the mode of ignorance, his bow, named Saranga, time, and his arrow, quiver, the working sense organs. 16. His arrows are said to be the senses, and his chariot is the active, forceful mind. His external appearance is the subtle objects of perception, and the gestures of his hands are the presence of the all-perceptible activity. 17. The sun globe is the place where Supreme Lord is worshipped. Spiritual initiation is the means of purification for the spirit soul, and rendering devotional service to the personality of Godhead is the process for eradicating all of one's sinful reactions. 18. Playfully carrying a lotus, which represents the various opulences designated by the word Bhaga. The Supreme Lord accepts service from a pair of chamara fans, which are religion and fame. 19. O Brahmanas, the Lord's umbrella is his spiritual abode, Vaikuntha, where there is no fear, and Garuda, who carries the Lord of sacrifice, is the threefold Veda. 20. The process of fortune, Shri, who never leaves the Lord's side, appears with him in this world as the representation of his eternal potency. Vishwashena, the chief among his personal associates, is known to be the personification of the Panchacharya and other Tantras, and the Lord's 8 doorkeepers, headed by Nanda, are his mystic perfections, beginning with Anima. 21. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are the names of the direct personal expansions of the Supreme Godhead, O Brahmana Shanaka. 22. One can conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in terms of awakened consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep, which function respectively through external objects, the mind and material intelligence, and also in terms of the fourth, transcendental level of consciousness, which is characterized by pure knowledge. 23. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hari, thus appears in full personal expansions, each exhibiting major limbs, minor limbs, weapons, and ornaments. Through these distinct features, the Lord maintains the four phases of existence. 24. O best of Brahmanas, he alone is self-luminous, original source of the Vedas, perfect and complete in his own glory. By his material energy, he creates, destroys, and maintains this entire universe, because he is the performer of the various material functions. He is sometimes described as materially divided, yet he always remains transcendently situated in pure knowledge. Those who are dedicated to him in devotion can realize him to be their true soul. 25. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief among the descendants of Vishnu, you are the destroyer of those political parties that are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and your most sacred glories, which are sung by Vrindavan's cowherd men and women and their servants, bestow all auspiciousness just by being heard. O Lord, please protect your devotees. I'll stop here, Prabhu.
Sure, Mother. Thank you so much. So, there is we're getting to the conclusion of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto. So, the context we hear was in the last chapter, we heard how Markandeya Rishi was visited by Lord Shiva and Uma Devi by their own mercy. He did not anticipate them, but they came and they gave him mercy. And they gave him, asked him for benediction, and Markandeya Rishi asked a beautiful benediction that I want devotion to the Supreme Lord and to the devotees, especially like you, like that he asked. That was benediction. And then Shiva gave benediction and Shiva left. So that's how the last chapter ended, primarily discussing about how Lord Shiva gave benediction and he left. And then there was a Falasruti, of course, at the end of the chapter, how whoever hears this pastime will never undergo any material existence like that. So then after that, this chapter starts interestingly. If you remember, the way after Sukadeva Goswami's narration was completed, the Vedas, how Vedas were divided was described. And then in the discussion came about different Purana names, Matsya Purana, Kurma Purana, Srimad Bhagavata Purana, Markandeya Purana, like that. And then Sutta Goswami zoomed into that Markandeya Purana. He basically asked, tell me more about Markandeya Rishi. I had this doubt, how come he realized the whole Pralaya, even before the Pralaya happened, because Pralaya usually, biggest Pralaya happens only between the two kalpas of Brahma, but he's belonging to this kalpa only. Like that, he asked a question. That's how he described the whole Markandeya Leela, where he saw the Supreme Lord personally. Supreme Lord gave benediction that he can see the effect of Maya. In fact, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu describes that Supreme Lord was not happy that he wants to know, he was curious about to know about Maya's effects, like that. So in that connection, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu also explains that sometimes it's not so helpful for us to think about why this caused, why this happened in terms of material nature, like that. So more important is how do we develop a relationship with Krishna and understanding about bhakti, like that. That's more important, like that. Gaurang Darshan Prabhu was sharing in that context. So now, so after that is done, then we heard how Lord Shiva visited and saw. So basically, if you summarize that whole section, essentially he wanted to know about Markandeya Rishi and then how Markandeya Rishi's experience. That's where the whole chapter was discussed. Now, the way Sutta Goswami says here now, oh no, I mean the fourth verse, let me go, first verse. Yeah, these are sages of Naimisharanya, right? Sanuk Rishi is speaking on behalf of the sages of Naimisharanya. He's asking Sutta Goswami, you are the best of learned men and a great devotee of Supreme Lord. First, they're appreciating the speaker. Then, therefore, we now inquire from you about the definitive conclusion of all Tantra scriptures. So now, Burjan Prabhu writes in his study guide in reference to Vishwanath Chakravarti commentary. How did this come about? So, two aspects. One is he systematically asking him to describe the different conclusions of the Vedic scriptures. Number one point. Number two, apparently Markandeya Rishi actually achieved perfection through tantric worship, it seems. So that is why he's asking in that connection. That is the connection between the last chapter and this chapter. How come he suddenly jumped to this topic like that? So Vishwanath Thakur commentary also refers that, he says, the followers of the Tantrika path think of limbs of Vishnu and Lakshmi as they view the Lord's opulences in the material world. As we are seeing opulences in the material world, they compare it to the opulences of Supreme Lord. They imagine it is an opulence of Supreme Lord. Of course, we know it's all because of Krishna's energies only, in that sense. But they view really in terms of the Virat Rupa, form of the Lord, like that. That's what he's describing here. And then he says, Sutta Goswami will describe the Tantrika process of worshipping the Mahapurusha the opulence of Lord's major limbs, like feet and so on, and minor limbs, that means like paraphernalia, like Garuda, his carrier and others, along with an enumeration of the sun's different expansions. That's a summary of this chapter, which Nikita Thakur is giving in the first few verses, basically. So the point is that he wants to know the conclusion of tantric scriptures and how tantric worship is done. So now, obviously, Sutta Goswami and Sukadeva Goswami, they both want to establish Supreme Lord Krishna's worship. So that's why the descriptions in this chapter are following, leading the person who is interested in tantric worship towards Krishna only. So to that end, Krishna's Vrindavan beautiful form, the Shamsundar form, descriptions, they relate different features of the material world to that Krishna's form. And then that way, slowly, at the end of this section, Sutta Goswami explicitly describes Krishna's personal form. Krishna directly mentioned also. So like that, this coming slowly gradual relation. So Guruji also describes this in parallel. This is the same parallel that we discussed in the second canto, first three chapters, wherein second canto, first chapter, if you remember, is focused on importance of hearing and chanting, and also is focused on how people who cannot understand and appreciate Supreme Lord in any other way other than by gross things in the material world. For them, Virat Rupa form is discussed. Especially pantheism is a concept described based by seeing the nature, different things in nature, remind them of Krishna like that, understanding that they are part of the body of Krishna like that. So that worship was discussed initially, and the idea was people who are not at the higher consciousness, who are only can understand only gross things, they start there like that, and then the senses are gradually spiritualized, purified. Senses and minds gradually spiritualized and purified. Through that, they'll come to the place of meditating on the Supreme Lord as a super soul in the heart, like that. And then gradually to a higher relation. The third chapter was about change in heart, which is coming to the direct worship of Supreme Lord, like that, in devotion service. So Guruji Prabhu is drawing the parallel to that. Basically, he's taking the reader or the audience from the wherever they are to the Supreme Lord worship, like that. That's another thing Guruji Prabhu discussed. Now, I will not go through each and everything because they're comparing the form of the Lord, different paraphernalia of the Lord, different organs of the Lord, different ornaments of the Lord, with the material nature. How they're representing material nature is representing one of the features of the Lord, like that. I'll not go through all of them, but 2-3 important themes are there in the section. So we'll go through those 2-3 important themes. Let me go through. Yeah, this text state purport indicates various aspects of material creation, such as earth, sun, and trees, are sustained by various limbs of the universal body of the Lord. Thus, they are considered non-different from Him, as described in this verse, which is meant for meditation. So, this Virat Rupa form is we know is for meditation of the people like yogis who are not yet there to access the personal form of the Lord and worship like that. So now going further, yeah, there's wonderful description about text 1. Text 1 describes on the chest of the Supreme Lord, there's a Kaustuba gem, which represents the pure spirit soul, along with the Srivatsa mark, which is the direct manifestation of this gem's expansive effulgence. Let me go through some commentary in the Gurujan Prabhu's book on that. He says that is referring to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary. Vishwanath Thakur says that this effulgence of the Kaustuba, which spreads everywhere, is Srivatsa, a fine curl of white hair, whirled clockwise on the Lord's upper chest, it seems. This Srivatsa mark, this supports his opulence known as Dharma, like that. And then what is not mentioned here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about, which is on the left side of the chest. Srivatsa mark is on the right side. On the left side of the chest is the Lakshmi Rekha, it seems, a golden line similar to the line made on a gold testing stone when real gold is rubbed on it, it seems. It's a golden line, it seems. That is a Lakshmi Rekha, it seems. This supports his opulence of royalty, like that is described. Yeah, actually, one other interesting, important point Burjan Pro mentions, and Sutta Goswami is responding to this question of Sonak Rishi, who's a representative of sages of Namisaranya. He first offers his obeisances to his spiritual master, Sukadeva Goswami. So here Burjan Prabhu describes, because he wishes Sukadeva Goswami to offer his blessings so that so that he can bless him with the ability to correctly understand the meaning of whatever he has heard from spiritual master. So there's a nice mood we can also practice. Basically, remembering a spiritual master when we pay obeisance to spiritual master before reading scriptures, before hearing class like that, right? That time we can meditate that please give me mercy so I can understand the subject matter properly and apply in my life like that. That's an important lesson we can learn from there like that. And then, yeah, this one we talked about already. Yeah, let's go to the text number 16. Yeah, text number 16 talks about Supreme Lord's gestures of his hands are the essence of all purposeful activity. Is described. This many verses don't have purport. This verse has purport. This is nice. Gestures of hands are like mudras. It seems like paying, giving of blessings like that. All activities are ultimately aimed at the supreme perfection of life, and this perfection is awarded by the merciful hands of the Lord. The gestures of the Lord remove all fear from the heart of a devotee and elevate him to the Lord's own association in the spiritual sky. So that's the blessings Supreme Lord is giving to us. Let me see. Yeah, basically, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur commentary. This is from Vishwanath Chakra Thakur commentary actually. So Wisdom Prabhu also briefly summarizes the same thing that is described here. Essentially, the mudras or the hand gestures of Supreme Lord, he through that he gives us benedictions. For what? So that we can progress in spiritual life towards him. And also he gives fearlessness also to support that actions of going back to Supreme Lord like that. So now I'll go into next verse. Let me see, text 17. Yeah, text 17 purport indicates one should meditate on the fiery sun globe as a place where God is worshipped, like that. And then going to text 20. Yeah, text 20 has a longer purport. Okay, we'll discuss this one. Text 20 talks about goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. She is referred as Sri here. He says, who never leaves the Lord's side, appears with him in this world as the representation of his internal potency. The purport focuses on the two aspects. She never leaves the side of the Lord, and she is internal potency. Those two aspects purport focuses on. And the verse also talks about the Lord's 8 doorkeepers, and the purport talks about 18 doorkeepers of Vaikuntha also, by reference to scriptures. So going to purport, a couple of points in the purport are important. Basically, Jiva Goswami commentary is referred in the purport. He says, Goddess of Fortune is the original source of all material opulence also. Remember, in the verses described that Goddess of Fortune is the internal potency of the Supreme Lord. And we know God has marginal potency also, which is Jivas, and external potency also, which is the material nature, material world, like that. So the point here in being made by reference to Hayasira Pancharatra also is that the material opulence, whatever material opulence we see here, is also an expansion of internal potency of the Supreme Lord, Goddess of Fortune, like that. So that's why many times we hear different Vaibhavas or opulences of in the material world are from Lakshmi Devi, like that we commonly hear. Ashtalakshmi, like that we also, there's a understanding about Ashtalakshmi. So Lakshmi is in different forms, basically different opulences she manifests in like that. So the point he made is from them, it's not just material nature. Material nature is Mahamaya, we commonly call. Internal potency is Yogamaya. So basically, it's an expansion of Yogamaya only, Mahamaya, not different from her opulence, like that is described. Now, Yeah. And then other aspect is the infallible nature of the material nature, Lakshmi Devi, and the Supreme Lord. Three are described in the purport also. And then finally it ends with Padma Purana reference, where 18 doorkeepers of the Lord names are given. Interesting things were, we know about Jaya and Vijaya, they are also listed. And Nanda and Sunanda, they are also listed here. They are commonly referred. Nanda is considered the chief of them, like that. So their names are mentioned. And apparently Subhadra is one of the names of the doorkeepers also. So I'm just mentioning because that is one of the name we all normally hear as a sister of Krishna, right? So she's another name is used here also. Subhadra is also doorkeeper also, same name. And Bhadra, we hear from Krishna's covered boys also. So, but here go doorkeeper also. So different personalities, same name basically. Next to Vamana is a doorkeeper also. We know Vamana as a supreme lord himself, but as a doorkeeper also there is Vamana here like that. That's what I was observing only. And then going further in 22 verse, he says one can conceive of supreme lord in terms of awakened consciousness, sleep and deep sleep, and a transcendental level of consciousness also, which is characterized by pure knowledge like that. Then going further, so interestingly, purport for 23rd verse describes Lord's spiritual body, weapons, ornaments, like Kastubhajam we discussed, and associates are all pure transcendental existence, identical with him like that. They're all spiritual in nature, they're identical with him like that is describing. Now going to 24th verse, Supreme Lord always remains transcendentally situated in pure knowledge. Those who are dedicated to him in devotion can realize him to their true soul. So now after describing how material nature is representing different features of Supreme Lord, whether it's the limbs of Supreme Lord, ornaments of Supreme Lord like that, now it's directly coming to the point that by devotion, one can realize the Supreme Lord like that. That's why he came to that progression basically. So, Sudha Goswami. And there's a beautiful purport for this 24th verse where Vishwanath Chakravarti commentary is given. So basically, this is giving how we can be humble and how we can be successful in the life while we are here. So the 2 points. What are the 2 points about it? That earth, we can all see earth. It's visible to us always. So earth is the expansion of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So when we understand that aspect, that earth is the expansion of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then all moving and non-moving living beings, that means whether different kinds of living beings, including trees, non-moving living beings, means they're all taking shelter of the earth. We're all walking on the earth. We're all being supported by earth right now also, when sitting also. So then are thus sheltered at the lotus feet of my Lord. So we need to see like that. That means all the living beings are taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord like that. One key understanding. Then now for this reason, I shall respect every living being and not envy anyone. That means we don't want to cause harm to anybody like that. So the point here is we're seeing everyone in connection to Supreme Lord. Here in this context, we're seeing in the connection of everybody is taking shelter of Supreme Lord, lotus feet by taking shelter of earth like that. In this context, we're seeing like that. But essentially, we discussed in the 11th canto also how that is one of the main theme, that how everybody is related to Krishna. Everybody is coming from Krishna. Everybody part and parcel of Krishna. And matter also is related to Krishna because it's made of Krishna's energies only, like that we discussed, right? So this is the same thing explained in different angle, that when we see connection with Krishna, then we naturally have respect. Naturally, we don't want to offend. We don't want to envy. Like that's the point made here. Naturally, we want to respect also. Now, another thing he says is, so that is one principle he describes, Vishwanath Chakravarti. Another principle he describes is all living entities constitute the Kaustuba gem on my Lord's chest. That means all of them are in. I'm worshipping Supreme Lord Krishna. On Supreme Lord Krishna's chest is Kaustuba gem. That is representing all the living entities are there. Like that is saying. So now they are all very close to Supreme Lord on his chest like that. So then, therefore, I should never envy or deride any living entity. by practicing this meditation, one can achieve success in life. So it's another way of seeing how all are in relation to Krishna, like that. Then we naturally have respect for his Lord. So the same respect we can extend to other living entities, like that. So there's a nice description in the purport here. Now going to 25th verse. 25th verse glorifies Krishna with his different names and features of Krishna. It basically says, "Oh Krishna, friend of Arjuna." The verse has Krishna Saka, "Oh friend of Arjuna." So Gauranga Darshan Prabhu describes actually Arjuna. Arjuna also, one of the names of Arjuna also is Krishna, it seems. So interestingly, Krishna is being referred to as Krishna Saka and my friend of Arjuna, like that. That's what Gauranga Darshan Prabhu describes from this verse, like that. And then he says, this is describing Sutta Goswami, you're the destroyer of all of those political parties that are disturbing elements on this earth. We know he came to destroy all the demonic personalities in the earth, like that. And then you're the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and your most sacred glories. That means Krishna Katha, hearing about Krishna. Bestow all auspiciousness just by hearing. So in fact, it describes this Krishna Katha hearing is like going to a pilgrimage place, like that. That's what is coming in the verse, like Tirtha Sravaha, what is used. And then this Krishna Katha is sung by Vrindavan gopis and gopas and their servants also, like that. And it bestows all auspiciousness just by hearing, like that. So, oh Lord, please protect your devotees. Like that, Sutta Goswami is mentioning now. So the last, I think this is the last verse for today, right? Yeah. Next verse is talking about a Falasruti. We will discuss tomorrow. But essentially, this so Sutta Goswami is bringing a reference to Krishna, even though the question is about tantric worship, is bringing them to highest worship, direct devotion service of Krishna, and he explained the principle of how we should see all the living beings in relation to Krishna. That way we can respect them, we can stay in a humble position. So we don't want to boss around anybody, and then we not envy anybody also. So that's the essence of this section. We'll continue tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kupasantubhyevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.